First off, we're going to talk about AI Darth Vader because that is all I've been seeing on my feed lately is clips of people making him say not so nice things. So to clarify, Fortnite recently added into their game a version of Darth Vader that responds to voice commands and runs off of, I believe it's Google Gemini is the technology that they're using, but
Hmm.
it's basically as if the same way you enter a text prompt into ChatGPT, or even speaking to ChatGPT, since I think that's one of the features on the app. They've implemented that in game with Google Gemini so that players can speak to their AI version of Darth Vader, and naturally, people have gotten Darth Vader to say a lot of stuff that he probably shouldn't be saying. This calls into question a lot of stuff regarding, ethical use of AI, um, using an actor's voice past their death, specifically James Earl Jones, who passed away. Although there's more to the conversation regarding him specifically. But Bryson, how do you feel about all this?
Well, before even getting into the ethics of using AI, just speaking on the tech standpoint, I want to say this is some of the most impressive AI I've seen. Implemented because not only because it seems like they didn't just throw this in as soon as they figured out how to do it. It seems like they polished it because not only does the AI respond at a decent time, at a decent pace, it's also responding in character, and it's always trying to rope what you say into the character's personality, and give like a response, kind of like a, I hope this isn't disrespectful, but something like a Disney
Well,
World effect.
I'll,
um
I
yeah.
will say that I've seen streamers use similar AI characters.
Yes.
And the one thing that I've seen that's different is that yes, it does respond sooner, but none of the speaking in character or referencing past things that a player has said. I've seen all that
Mm-hmm.
used in AI from what different streamers use and clips that I've seen. So that part doesn't surprise me. But the quick responses I think are the one thing that stuck out to me in how maybe they set it up a specific way so that it responds faster. But everything else, I feel like I've seen.
The other thing that I thought was special was it having a gameplay result in what you say. Like I've seen the one thing I can remember is someone had said something, they're just pushing the AI trying to get it to say something crazy, and Vader's annoyed, so he'll turn on the player. You know what I mean? And start fighting. Yeah, I think in any way, having it, having your voice not only just generate some response but generate an action. I think that's really cool. I don't think I've ever seen something like that in a game. And and also it's pretty. It seems pretty contextual. I've seen that clip. Yeah, people have probably seen it, where he's speaking on how they're getting around or something. He's tell me about this Jeep Wrangler, because there's a Jeep Wrangler in in Fortnite, and he's just he says something, and the player's should I just destroy the Jeep Wrangler? And he's like yeah, and then he I don't it's I won't speak on that. I don't know how deep, because he started he went into combat mode, but I think he went into combat mode because there were just players around.
Mhm.
But the fact that he's talking and he's and it has of course that typical video game AI, so it knows how to fight. You know what I'm saying? It's just seeing all of that together. I think that once it becomes even faster with the response time, and how long it takes to respond to what a player says, I think it's I think that's insane, just from a tech standpoint, and it definitely can get better, but if the speed, if it was faster, I couldn't even complain. That's pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, I think as far as gameplay goes, I wonder how much of it is just people projecting on it, noticing that it's doing stuff because of what it's saying, and or how much of that is just the regular AI, and how much is that actually implemented intentionally. But like thinking about it, I mean, most of what I've seen, like I said earlier, was just like people uh, making it say dumb shit
Yeah.
online, which is like fun, and I think that's why the reception, at least on like the entertainment side, has been positive, but it still raises so many like negative implications. But I could see the novelty of something like this going away pretty quickly. Like thinking back to
Mm-hmm.
when Apple revealed like Siri on everyone's
Yeah.
phones.
Yep.
I mean, all people were doing was like spending time asking Siri like dumb questions, you know? And eventually like it kind of wears off. Like how many
Yeah.
things can you ask like a chatbot thing until you get like bored with it? And you know, there's novelty to it being like a certain character, and if they want to implement different characters, but like even some of the clips that I've seen is like Darth Vader AI speaking to like Sabrina Carpenter and like Ariana Grande. Like, how long do we go before like, because there's only so much you can regulate what an AI says, and when it's
Yeah.
interacting with reconstructions of real people, like how far are they willing to take that before people start pulling out of, you know, having their character in the game or having themselves in the game because they don't know what an AI is going to say about them. Like there's so many ways I could see this being just like a flash in the pan thing where it's going to wear off or it's going to be too controversial to go forward or someone's going to get pissed about it and it's going to cause them to have to rethink how it's implemented. Like there's just it's already the discussion is already like how long until Darth Vader says something so bad that they're going to have to pull the AI voice out of the game, you know.
See, and that's the thing. I think like I see where you're coming from. There's two things I want to say. Like one, I think that when it comes to like him saying bad stuff, AI, like we've for the past like year, we've all been getting pretty used to like how ChatGPT and Google Gemini like works, right? Like we know that like there's rules, like there's like say that again.
I said some more than others, but go on.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. There's of course like things that they put into these AIs to have them like not say certain things or um react differently. Like if you say like that you might harm yourself, like it'll kind of like shut down the conversation and say like you need to get help. Like there's all these different like I guess parameters, and there's these different things to kind of like make it to where like an AI won't do something or that it responds a certain way.
Hmm.
But of course, you can, if you try hard enough, or if you just look up how to do it, you can break the AI and you can
Yeah.
have it say all kinds of things. And I
Hmm.
think that I think as more people start to just understand that that's what happens. Like Vader is not gonna start saying insane things unless you start like pushing it to do that. Like I don't think we're gonna see a clip come out where Vader says something like just like something terrible that wasn't the result of somebody like pushing it and poking it and trying to get it to do something crazy. And I think
Well,
that mhm.
I would just say that like we don't know that that's true. Like it, it's happened with like AI stuff before where they just say insane shit like totally unprompted. So who knows? But also, I don't think like there would have to be proof of it being unprompted. I think even it being prompted and things being said would be enough to get people to start being worried about this or for it to start having a financial impact on Epic because of, you know, maybe creators who don't want to be a part of it. But
I
I
think
get what you're saying.
it's about how you navigate it, because it's like if you go to an amusement park, right? And let's say there's like, well, at Disney World, they got shit on lock. They're pretty professional over there. But there's the way I see it, and I you guys gotta walk with me on this, because I don't know how to like put it the best way. But I see it like if I go anywhere, right? If I take my kids to like fucking, like, I don't have kids. If I take them to Universal Studios, right, and we're interacting with like all the different characters that are there, right? These are real people that can say and do anything, right? Like they can be punished for it, right? Like there's like repercussions for it, but like I feel like there's this understanding that like if something were to go wrong, like if like insert character here. If Harry Potter says some crazy shit, right? Like it's kind of like, yeah, he was not supposed to say that. And then there's probably gonna be like, a wave of like, oh, I don't like, should you really be taking your kids to Universal Studios when their employees say some crazy? Like, I think that like,
I see that comparison doesn't work for me though, because you can fire an employee, but an AI is always going to be a computer. It's always going to be unpredictable.
yeah, but I don't know. I feel like the like kind of like what you said about the like the cold novelty of it, like people getting used to like it do. I think people are going to get used to the fact that an AI messes up or like can say something crazy. And I think that I do believe that like that for the most part when an AI says something crazy, that like it's something that like the player like finessed it into saying. That's just something like from my experience with AI. But even like in the times where it does like genuinely just make a mistake and the player was innocent in it, or the user or whatever, I think that like it's Epic's job to make sure that gets fixed. And over time I think it's just gonna get better. But at the same time, I don't think there's ever gonna be a future where the AI just like is perfect. um I think it's just something that's gonna become like understood.
But I think for a lot of people, like you're saying, oh, they'll fix it to a point. I think for a lot of people, the credibility just gets stripped away as soon as, that stuff happens. Like even repeatedly fixing it just speaks to how unstable it is and how little it can be relied upon to, stick to the parameters that it's supposed to stick to, right? Like
Yeah.
this is obviously like a dramatic example, but how long until like some 8-year-old goes on and is like, "Oh, Darth Vader, like tell me how to build a bomb," and Darth Vader, you need to go to Home Depot and like, like I could see like conversations like that happening. Like obviously that's hyperbolic, but
And yeah, and but I really do believe that, and I think this it's Epic's job, and and all these different companies that want to do something like this, is their job to prove this right, or to sell this to people, however you want to look at it, right? That when your kid goes on Fortnite and he says something like that, that the character is going to respond in a good way. The character is going to be like, probably shouldn't be building a bomb or something. Like it's like that has to be the result, or this whole thing just doesn't work. And I think that they understand that, like the the common experience of going into Fortnite and interacting with characters has to be something, it has to be like a positive thing. And yeah, there's always going to be clips on, I think, well, I don't think there's always going to be clips online, because I think that after a while it's going to get uh and it might take a long time, because like you said, not everybody knows how, like, not everybody has gotten used to AI. But I think there is going to come a point where the whole, oh, I got Darth Vader to say, some slur, I think that's going to like die down. I think that's not going to be as, the shock value and the clickableness of that
I
happening
think
is going to die
like maybe the news stories will die, and I still don't see this lasting like as long as those things can still happen. And we might differ on how we
down.
feel about that, but I could see like for parents the threshold being a lot lower when it comes to tolerance for that kind of thing. Like I think
Hmm.
as someone who uses social media, it's really easy to go on and like laugh at clips like that. But if
Yeah.
I'm a parent and I know my kid is playing that game, like all I have to hear is like one thing that I don't like for me to tell my kid like, hey, we're not playing that anymore. Like we're done. As long as that's in the game, you're not touching Fortnite. When I know Darth Vader can like tell you how to blow up your school, we're not doing that.
You're right. That I hear that. Here's something I'll say to that too, though. Supposedly, and I haven't seen this. I've just heard it. Like, I just heard it's the case. Um, I've heard that there is a parental like switch with AI. Like you can
Hmm,
turn it off. Like there's like supposedly you have to get like permission from your parents, whatever that could be, like to
interesting.
be able to use the AI, which I'm assuming is just like hey, press X if you got permission, or press circle if you didn't. You know what I mean? So there's probably not that many locks on that, but
I mean, I could if you have to like verify it through an email or something, I could see it. Although like kids these days are pretty capable. I mean, like every school gives out
yeah.
like, fucking
I,
Chromebooks, so who knows?
Yeah, I think for the
But
most part you're right in the sense that if you don't want your kid like being able to interact with all of that, you probably just say don't play the game at all because you can't really control whether or not they're like unless they do some in better like parental locks or whatever. Like, I don't
yeah, but I
um
I think honestly, like the pushback from this that's gonna create like any change is if
mhm
it comes from any of the like people who've contributed content to Fortnite. And Fortnite's like the one
mm,
that's like something they have to be worried about because
yeah
they don't own, but they have so many properties under their belt that are in the game, and so many individuals, like I said, like the pop stars like Sabrina Carpenter, Ariana Grande, or even some of like the content creators, that have their skins in the game. Or like, I don't know, isn't there like a LeBron James skin? Like there are so many people
mhm
who could just like glance at this, and if they feel a certain way about it, it would be really easy to pull out, and then that could have like a ripple effect similar to how like it happened with YouTube and their whole adpocalypse thing. Like
yeah.
it would take very little for that to happen.
I also want to speak to the longevity of this. So, and also kind of like relating it to the whole like Siri boom, and just is this thing going to be something that's even like is AI even going to be cool later type of thing? Is it going to last? I think that when Siri first hit the scene, I think that level of AI or whatever it was called, I think it was cool and it was exciting because at that time we thought that AI was what ChatGPT is today. Like the us like us like normal people, we think, oh, this is like we didn't really know the full difference. We could see that like if we keep playing with this thing, it doesn't really stretch that far. But I think, and I bring that up to say this this Vader thing, right? Using the Vader thing as an example.
Mm.
If Vader, like I said, if the responses get faster and like if it gets better at like if they get faster and they get better and there's more and just the gameplay, like the AI of like just how it moves and operates, holds itself, whatever in the game. I think if those things get better, I don't think that I think it would be here to stay. Like, I think that that would be something that's like depending on the game, because that's something that I kind of want to get into, like when it comes to AI. And this kind of goes into the like the ethics of AI, because I'm not I guess I don't feel like I'm pro AI, but at the same time I I look at this future of like of gaming where have you seen Sword Art Online?
Why are you asking me that? No.
Oh man, like guys, please, what I'm saying, Sword Art fans, let him go. Let him slide.
Yeah.
He didn't
Oh,
mean
I
it.
know who to block. Please reach out to me.
He didn't mean it. I've seen the first two seasons. And I think there's okay. How about this? Have you seen Black Mirror,
Yeah.
USS Callister?
Yes.
So with USS Callister, like it's supposed to be this like this large universe, right? It's supposed to be like almost like an infinite universe. Um,
You could have just used like Ready Player One as like an example.
well, I think with Ready Player One, like a lot of the people that I've seen it, I can't speak to that as strongly. I just the idea that you can go to some random planet and there's some person working at like a fucking like uh spaceship repair shop, whatever, and that you can talk to that person, right?
Yeah, I mean, my issue with that is that
Uh,
there's like without having someone actually writing these characters, like the AI struggles so much to come up with like actual personality because it doesn't have a personality, right? It's just like
mm-hmm.
copy and pasting like bits of what it knows from what it's been given. So I think people like when you think about something like that, you're like heavily discounting the work that a writer puts into a game and how much like that work injects personality into the game itself. Because if you think that a game that has NPCs fully written by AI is going to be anything but like bland and it can only go so far. I mean, writers are always going to have work, even if they're not paid enough or if they're having to work alongside AI, because they're the ones who are actually coming up with stuff, you know? And I feel like when that's not in a game and it's like soulless, like you can feel that come through. So I think it's a cool prospect, and like in theory it's fun to think about, but I don't see it working on a scale like that.
I think it comes down to just, and this is me like, uh, just, after I don't know how many years of watching sci-fi movies, I think, well, one, I want to say when it comes to building a narrative, like telling a story, um, for the foreseeable future, I think you're gonna need humans there, and like the dialogue and the characters would need to be like they would need to be crafted. But I think that like for the case of something like like if you're making a video game where you're just going to some shop and this character has no like this character is kind of like a nobody. I think I can see a future where the AI is good enough to at least be able to hold a basic conversation of I need this part for my ship and like do you have this? Can you have, like I think that like
But I think
those
like even
mm,
that is like discounting like how memorable that experience can be. Like you think of like the Resident Evil 4 shopkeeper, you know?
mm,
And they could have made that like this minimal, non-invasive interaction, but they gave him these like goofy voice lines, and now it's this thing that everyone knows, you know? So I think already when we're conceding these things to AI, we're like transplanting it with something that doesn't have a soul, is doesn't leave any impression whatsoever.
I think when you're going into another world and and I'll jump to the other part of this in a second, but I think that if the idea like there's this game Star Citizen, I know people hate this game. Like people don't trust the studio, and I can't really defend it too much. But I'm really hyped for Star Citizen. I support Star Citizen. Yada yada yada. Star Citizen is supposed to be this kind of um like really insane like space simulator type of thing where like you're in this you go to these different solar systems and you can kind of just be whatever you want to be, or at least you can be like five different sci-fi space type people. um like you can like you can go to all these different places and there's like planet sized planets, that type of deal. And when I think about stepping into that world, and especially versus stepping into something that's like like a linear experience like Resident Evil is like, I think about stepping into another reality. And if I'm in that world and I'm talking to like some random character, right? If that character is just some random character on a planet, it would be cool for some of those like random characters to be special and crafted. I think similar to um well, this might sound crazy now that I've actually processed it a little bit, but
Now that I've come to my point, I'm realizing that.
I'm gonna say it anyway. But I did realize something. But I was gonna say, similar to real life, you might just have a boring experience or a very like normal experience talking to some like random person when it was like it might just be like a pretty default boring conversation. But I think that the thing that I thought about as I was saying it is when if you go to like Starbucks and you have a nothing interaction with somebody, just my name's this and coffee, right? That person is still a person with a soul. I don't, that kind of like that doesn't really sell what I'm talking about. But I don't know. I see like I just wonder when, because I've always liked this idea since I was a kid of us getting to a point in video games where like this world is massive and almost infinite. And I feel like when
I'm
you're
telling you,
doing
man,
that,
you don't want that game though. You don't
you
want
don't
that
think you don't
game.
think that
Because
mm,
that's what Starfield is. You don't want that game. I'm telling you, man. Like that game is gonna be like whatever it takes to make that means that there's only so much manpower you can put in every corner of that world. which means something is being sacrificed. I mean, No Man's Sky is good, right? But it took years to get there, and I'm sure people still have complaints about it. But that like everything game that everyone dreams of when they're like 12 years old, like I promise you, you don't want that because it would be boring and it couldn't exist because it would have to have personality. Personality is what makes games unique and memorable. And if you have an infinite everything game, there's only so much like handcrafted stuff you can cram into that. And AI doesn't have the personality or spontaneity that would be required to make that experience interesting, you know?
You know, I think you actually sold me on that. I'm not gonna lie. I think you actually sold me on that because I've like it's something I've thought about like for a long time. I've thought a lot about it, but I think you're right. I think that when you play a video game, like same thing like when you like when you're watching a movie, it's like you're expecting to have some type of experience, and if that experience is not a crafted thing, then it's kind of just more boring reality. And it's like, why even like what would we even be entertaining about that? I'm mostly sold on that. Like, I think the don't I would say I'm like 90% sold on what you just said. Like it really just like a real 180, or at least a 170. And I think that that last 10% in my mind right now is if someone I'm thinking about if someone made a world and there was a crafted story. Like I think like Star Citizen is supposed to have like there's supposed to be like a main story and there's like gonna be side stories within that. And then I think around the side stories and the main story there would be just random like just like kind of like nothing characters or just like I think that's where the AI would come in. And I can't say I feel like I don't know. I'm gonna have to see the implementation of of how that works. But I think you're right though. I think like when you aim for a game being that massive, you also just kind of aim for it not being as crafted, and that's gonna just be boring.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, you can look at like MMOs as like an example of that, right? Like people like MMOs because it's kind of like a forever experience, right? And even those games have like crafted storylines and distinct characters and all that. And I still bounce off of them because to me it's just like so repetitive and the tasks that you do in
bro,
MMOs are so like monotonous. So like those games already exist for people who want something like that, and they're gonna keep adding stuff to like Final Fantasy 14. So if you want something like that, you can play that. And hey, guess what? If you don't like that, then maybe you don't like the everything game that you wanted the whole time, because that's the type of experience that you're gonna get with the game.
nah, you Ari is spitting right now, bro. Because I fucking hate these MMOs that are out today. I hate these MMOs that are out today, and I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like nobody can convince me that those are good games. It's like I swear, like these
They have an
MMOs,
audience. They'll
they
always have.
have an audience, but I think that audience is like it's like I have a friend, and I feel bad for this conversation we had. He knows about the conversation, but he likes Final Fantasy 14 is one of his favorite games, and I feel like the way that MMOs are today is like people think they like what they're playing because they don't have a better alternative. That's just to sum it up. That's how I feel about it. Like I think they just if you look at like games from like a game design like just standpoint, like just like how well something is like made or paced out, or or if you look at like a storytelling standpoint, things like that, it's like a lot of these MMOs just like fall flat on every fucking angle.
Yeah,
And
I don't enjoy the gameplay of MMOs, but I do recognize that they're built in such a way that facilitates like social play, since that's like the real end game is like playing with other people, massive multiplayer online, that's the whole point. Because I've
mm-hmm,
never gotten to like an end game scenario in any MMO, and I don't really
mm-hmm.
see myself going that far, but I get the feeling that the way that they're built is because like they know that ultimately players are going to get to a certain point where the 20 actions that they have on their bar will actually like come in handy when they're doing a raid with like five
Mm-hmm.
other people or like 20 other people. So I can't speak to like how those games are built because I've never followed through on playing them enough to like actually uh, learn why they're designed in the way that they are. But yeah, like if you jump in for an MMO for like 3 hours, you're gonna get a bunch of missions that are like go to this place, kill 10 of these things,
Oh my
pick up a
god.
bunch of these plants. But I also it's understood that like the people who do that and who play those games are playing it for like different reasons, and it's mostly to hang out with other people and because of like a community that they've built or whatever, or they like are invested in their character or whatever it might be. But like translating that to like an AI game where it's a bunch of nothing, and even if it does have like great game mechanics and it's super fun, like I think the immensity of that experience would just not like AI would not be up to the task to make it interesting. I think it's not going to come up with anything that's going to draw you in. It can only recycle stuff that's been built into it. And so I think you're going to find yourself with a similar experience where it gets repetitive and monotonous, except it's doing it in whatever story or dialogue. And you'll realize that a lot of that stuff is why you're playing, is to have moments with characters and story and stuff. So I think people maybe like need to need to have a perspective shift in that regard to kind of think about what the reality of an AI facilitated game would look like. So you know, that's how I think.
Yes. Yeah. I I hear that, and I think before we leave the AI conversation,
Yeah, and there's a lot of
just to
stuff
talk.
we're not going to be able to touch on regarding AI implementation and how we feel about it. It's a loaded topic, so
Yeah.
I just want to say that there's a lot to be said about it that we're not going to say because we could talk about it for hours. So.
Yeah. And like just in thinking about just focusing more on the use of somebody's voice. James Earl Jones, like his
Mhm.
his voice being used, and it seems like he had uh he had given like Disney permission to use his voice, and he had recorded lines, which I think also that's something else that I think is it's special about this one is the voice compared to the other like character AI things that I've seen. Though
Mhm.
it's really like the voice is really good to me, and I think that's because he actually did go in and record what all was necessary to make it sound good. So he was at he had given that to Disney, and the his family spoke on the Fortnite thing. I don't think we're 100% sure if he knew like how it was going to be used or whatever, but I mean he gave it to Disney, and his
I mean,
family says that like this
if you
is
sell the rights to your voice, then you have to assume they're going to use it in whatever way they
exactly,
want.
yeah. That's kind of how I look at it too. I seen people brought that up, and I mean like if you gave it to Disney and then Disney uses it with Epic, then it is what it is. But what do you think about because just from like the SAG has like that they're not going for it.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's
yeah.
like totally understandable. I think things get complicated when it comes to like ownership regarding like the character of Darth Vader being implemented in an epic game. So I can't speak to like the legality or how viable it is that SAG is like suing, or are they suing Epic, or at least like the Fortnite company. But
Hmm.
I think that it's like kind of dystopian. I mean, obviously, like James Earl Jones, like you can't say you don't like support his decision to monetize his voice in the future or have it be used for whatever. But I think that like any modern voice actor or actress who supports this is like supporting their way out of a job in the future. Like uh,
Hmm.
and I mean, I'm kind of like beating a dead horse saying this, but like any like AI voice is like losing the personality of a voice actor or a voice actress who could like bring a character to life. And obviously, in the case of Darth Vader, I mean, I shouldn't say that because there's a million people who I'm sure can do great Darth Vader voices
Hmm.
without, needing to use AI for it. So I think just like you're just gonna get a better product when you use voice actors and actresses. And I think it's kind of like scary to think about like selling the rights to your voice for the future.
Yeah.
We've already seen in games like the finals and arc raiders that use AI voices. Like,
Huh? What?
you didn't know that?
No. What?
You didn't know that? That's crazy.
Wait, so the announcer guy in the finals, what?
It's
Go
AI.
to the that's AI,
Yeah,
dude. I was wondering about that because I was like, because I seen I was listening to I was on like Embark Studios Spotify. I was listening to the music, and I'm like, man, they have music for every season, and there's also a voiceover. Like, there's like the announcer guys for every season. Like,
yeah,
that's AI.
yeah,
I thought
and
they just had someone in the studio who could do the voice. I really thought that was
no.
like, wow,
That's why
what?
they sound so weird. Like some of the
It doesn't
delivery
sound
is
weird to
so
me.
strange. Like they're off, man. They're like some of the ways that they say certain things, it kind of tips you off a little bit. But like
What?
studios, the thing is like studios are always gonna prioritize the cheaper option, which is why you can't give them any like leeway in regards to that kind of stuff because they're always gonna choose what they can make more money off of, and if it means not paying actors or actresses, like they're gonna do that. So I think SAG is like within their right to want to sue because I guess they weren't consulted on this use of AI.
Yeah,
But I think like I'm always going to be in favor of the artists. Yeah, like there need to be regulations on these things because I think there's already been like I keep seeing things on social media of people's like voices being stolen. Like recently, do you know the channel Game Maker's Toolkit?
no.
Like he makes videos about like game design and someone like stole his voice and pasted it into a
Oh
video they uploaded
wow.
online like as if they were talking about like game design. And so I think like regulation is just always going to be the best course of action for these things, as difficult as it is with the fucking like 80
Yeah,
year olds we have in Congress and all that. But I think the courts are a good place to help settle some of this stuff. So yeah, I'm always going to be in favor of the people trying to protect their rights for their voices and their art. So that's how I feel.
yeah, and the way I feel about it, like I would be 100% happy if like all this AI shit was just like killed like today, tomorrow. It's Oh, and that comes from I don't think that my problem with AI isn't, that like it sounds weird. I believe that like one day it will not sound weird. Or like my only problem, like the core thing that I see with AI that is like, this is why it needs to be regulated and this is why I wouldn't want to see it implemented everywhere, is it's soulless. Like that's it. Not that it's stealing. Not that it does
You
things
don't mind that
weird.
it's stealing?
People steal, and I think I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna even like, because here's the thing, right? Like Disney, right? Disney's like making AI stuff where it only uses things from its library or whatever, right? If that's true, like I mean, you guys got it, cool, whatever. My core problem and the thing that like I would like just attack when it comes to AI is just the fact that this is a soulless thing. Now, if we go into the future one day and I have a conversation with a robot and they tell me I have a soul, I'm sorry, AI. I apologize, but until then, I think that's my issue with it, and and that's why I'm like I won't say that I'm like against AI because I'm not like I I don't know. I'm kind of just sitting here passively like what's gonna happen, because if the people win and there's like an regulation is put into place and AI is not like running rampant, I think that's like a really good thing. I think that's a W. But at the same time, it's like, man,
See,
I see the dystopian future. Like
yeah,
I'm just looking at it like that.
I'm
Uh,
gonna I'm gonna go full leftist here and say that like
okay.
any technology that corporations can exploit, they're going to exploit if it means like more profit for them. And AI is obviously like the new what they see as the new cash cow. I think it's a bubble that's going to burst eventually. But for right now, like what it is to companies is a cheap option to not put more work into things that should have more work and money put into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so I think as long as like it exists, people are going to try to make money off of it and do the thing that requires like giving more money to people. Like I think they don't want to do that. I don't think they want to put the work in. Like
Hmm.
even the small things, like the it all adds up. And now we're seeing like articles written by AI, like news articles. I think it just needs to get clamped down as soon as possible because it's only like a net negative ultimately. Even when you have like funny clips of like Darth Vader talking, it kind of like it's funny in like a dystopian way, you know. uh
And
yeah.
I want to bring up one last thing with this topic. Just one last thing with this whole like AI Vader thing. Something I like, and this is it. Actually, really makes me want to download Fortnite. Right? I want to go onto Fortnite and just like role play as if I'm like there with Vader. I think that's cool. Like I think that's really cool, and I think and I'm wondering like how do you like how do you do that without AI? Or is that just something that we just
You
have to
get some
deal with? Like it's like
friends. You role play with them. No, I'm obviously I'm like joking around, but like seriously, like that's if you want to role play, like do it with other people. You don't need a computer to
mm,
role play. That's why people play D&D. That's why video games exist when they have like written lines by actual characters. You can role play as Geralt of Rivia and play The Witcher 3, you know? There's a lot of ways to do it. I get that it enables more freedom in regards to like what you say is directly translated and Darth Vader can respond to it. But like that's the magic of the real world. Like other people can respond to what you say too. It's crazy.
it's interesting.
Like the computer, like I think it has a Darth Vader voice, but I'm sorry, you're still just talking to a computer,
I hear you. I hear you.
regardless of whatever mask it's putting on.
Yeah, I think I just need to go to Disney World. I just need to go to Disney World.
No, don't do that either.
Don't do that.
No, I mean the actors that work there are great, but you don't have to give them any money. Disney,
Oh man.
Disney as a company, not the actors. God, give the
Oh
actors money,
man.
but Disney as a company, you don't have.
That's a whole other can. See, I'll defend Disney. But all right.
Anyway,
Let's go to the next one.
uh, so the next topic is Jade Raymond leaving Haven Studios. I had to do some